planet in the birth chart represents genius? Could it be clever Mercury? Or maybe beautiful Venus? Could it be active Mars? Or generous Jupiter? Maybe it's the Sun? Or maybe it's the Moon? Let's find out together. First, I want you to think back through history and think of someone that is unequivocally considered to be a genius. Probably a few names come to mind, but one of the first ones that should come to mind is probably Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo was an artist, an engineer, the quintessential Renaissance man. If you look at his drawings, his art, his journals, they depict a restless, infinitely curious mind that was well ahead of its time. But what's the planetary secret behind Leonardo's genius? Today, we're going to use traditional astrology techniques to analyze his birth chart and see if we can come up with an answer. I'm Geoffrey Ballinger, and today I'm teaming up with Satya Astrology to analyze the chart of one of history's most unique thinkers. Stay tuned. Now to start off, let's take a bird's eye view of the chart. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 14th, 1452 in Vinci, Italy, in the evening, about 9 p.m. A few of you might be going, wait a second, April 14th, but that should mean that he's an Aries sun and not a Taurus sun, right? When da Vinci was born, the calendar that was in use was the Julian calendar. It was replaced by the Gregorian calendar, the calendar we use today, in 1582, well after Leonardo da Vinci's death. So that explains the discrepancy. If you look on Astrodatabank, they offer a chart for Leonardo da Vinci, and it's got a AA Rodin rating, which means it's pretty reliable. However, the chart that we're using today is one that was rectified by Satya to be able to find the exact second of birth. Now, rectification is a pretty complex process, but hopefully one that we'll dive into in a future video. For today's purposes, suffice it to say that we have a chart with the ascendant at 5 degrees 4 minutes of Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising is pretty fitting for such a restlessly curious, innovative thinker who helped advance so many different fields of human knowledge, including the pursuit of human flight. In terms of other key placements, you've got the Moon in Pisces, the Sun in Taurus, Jupiter in Pisces, Saturn in Libra, Mars in Aquarius, Mercury in Aries, and Venus in Taurus. Now let's look at each of these in detail and learn which planet holds the key to Leonardo da Vinci's genius. Since Leonardo was born at night, the Moon, and not the Sun, is the sect ruler of the chart. The Moon here is located in Pisces, in the 4th whole sign house, conjunct Jupiter, the greater benefic. It's in the bound of Venus, and rules the 8th house by domicile and the 6th house by exaltation. It has excellent mutual reception with Venus. The Moon is in Venus's exaltation in Pisces, and Venus is in the Moon's exaltation in Taurus, and the two planets are connected by a sextile. The Moon is separating from Jupiter to apply to a sextile with the Sun in Taurus, in the 6th whole sign house. But what does all this planetary connection have to do with Leonardo da Vinci's life, especially his childhood? Let's take a look. Leonardo da Vinci was the illegitimate son of Ser Piero da Vinci and Caterina. Ser Piero was a well-to-do young man from a family of notaries that served religious orders in Florence. Caterina, meanwhile, was probably a servant or an orphan farm girl from the surroundings of Vinci, though her identity remains a subject of debate among scholars to this day. We can see Ser Piero as represented by Jupiter in the 4th, and Caterina as represented by the Moon in the 4th. Even though Leonardo was born out of wedlock, his birth was auspicious and was celebrated with a baptism in the local church, with no fewer than 10 godparents serving as witnesses. Interestingly, the Moon separates from Jupiter to connect with the Sun. Ser Piero and Caterina never married. Ser Piero was already betrothed to the daughter of a rich Florentine notary, whom he married 8 months later. Caterina, meanwhile, married a farmer and kiln worker named Antonio di Piero del Vaca. The Moon, with Jupiter in Pisces, reflects Leonardo's father's success as a notary, the family's landholdings in Vinci, and the countryside that Leonardo grew up in. The moon is also the Ferdaria ruler of the first 9 years of Leonardo's life, and was thus very important to his happy, fortunate childhood. Leonardo da Vinci's sun is in the sign of Taurus in the 6th whole sign house. The sign of Taurus, a fixed earth sign, is clearly connected with Leonardo's bucolic upbringing. As a child, he spent most of his time surrounded by farmers and farm animals, two subjects that would feature prominently in his later artwork. But it doesn't stop there. If you look at derived houses, the 6th house is the third house from the 4th, representing the siblings of the father. Leonardo's uncle Francesco would play a huge role in the boy's childhood, serving as much more of a father figure than the boy's own father. The moon's separation from Jupiter in the 4th, an application to a sextile with the sun in the 6th, is also significant here. Leonardo's mother had a son with a wealthy man, a classic signification of Jupiter, but later married a laborer. Laborers are a classic signification of the 6th house. Additionally, Ser Piero, Leonardo's father, would leave nothing to his son, although Leonardo's uncle Francesco would make him his sole heir. Unfortunately, the sun is applying to a square with Mars and Aquarius in the 3rd house, the house of siblings. Leonardo would end up in a bitter legal battle with his half-siblings over the estate of his uncle, although at the time he was able to use his political connections to come out on top. Animals and pets are also a classic 6th house signification. Animals feature widely in Leonardo's artworks and are depicted lovingly and with fine detail. Leonardo loved animals and was a strict vegetarian. He also wrote a series of fables in the vein of Aesop, featuring animals to entertain his patrons. We've already talked about how Jupiter in Pisces represents Leonardo's wealthy father and his family. The Da Vinci's worked primarily as notaries for religious orders in Florence. Both the legal themes and the religious themes are pure Jupiter, as is their wealth. Its position in the 4th house is a clear representation of their role as landed gentry. However, Jupiter's importance as the ruler of the ascendant, and its relationship with Venus, its bound ruler, is also clear in Leonardo da Vinci's artwork. Walter Isaacson, da Vinci's most famous biographer, explained it best when discussing The Last Supper. Look longer at the picture. It vibrates with Leonardo's understanding that no moment is discrete, self-contained, frozen, delineated, just as no boundary in nature is sharply delineated. As with the river that Leonardo described, each moment is part of what has just passed and what is about to come. This is one of the essences of Leonardo's art, from the Adoration of the Magi to the Lady with an Ermine to the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. Each moment is not distinct, but instead contains connections to a narrative. Pisces, as a water sign, is excellent at dissolving boundaries and has an innate creative generosity. If you look at the painting Tobias and the Angel, or the Baptism of the Christ, which Leonardo painted with his teacher Verrocchio, you can see this blurring of boundaries. This is an artistic technique called sfumato. The edges blur, creating a luminous, flowing vision that plays with light and shadow to dissolve the clear boundaries between nature, art, and reality. The lesser malefic, Mars, is in the air sign of Aquarius in the 3rd whole sign house of short distance travel, siblings, and writing. Mars rules Leonardo's Mercury by sign and his midheaven by bound. This means the planet is especially important to his career. While we may remember Leonardo primarily as an artist today, for long stretches of his life he thought of himself more as an engineer. In fact, he worked as a military engineer for Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan. During his time in Milan, Leonardo designed bridges, siege engines, and fortifications, all classic martial pursuits. Mars in Aquarius in the 3rd house also represents his work with roads and canals, local transportation infrastructure of the time. In Milan, he improved the Navigli canal system, and in Florence, he designed plans to divert the Arno River away from Pisa. The solar arc direction of Mars to the ascendant with a trine aspect times his employment in Milan as a military engineer and designer. In August 1502, as the solar arc direction went exact, Cesare Borgia designated Leonardo da Vinci as family architect and general engineer. As a result, Leonardo received a passport, allowing him to inspect, improve, and design hydraulics and military infrastructure. Mars in Aquarius is also connected to Leonardo's numerous anatomical studies. Mars is classically connected with anything cutting, including surgery and dissection. Leonardo dissected over 30 human corpses between 1480 and 1500. The third house is related to copious note-taking, and Aquarius is connected to things for communal use. The painstaking diagrams in Leonardo's notebooks were clearly designed for a future audience and helped inform his detailed perspective on the human body. In short, Mars in Aquarius explains part of the reason why Leonardo treated the human body as a finely tuned, engineered structure. Leonardo's Mercury in Aries in the fifth whole sign house of creative pursuits and pleasure is the second key to his career. It rules the midheaven by sign and is also ruled by Mars in Aquarius. So it depicts his fiercely creative career propelled by bold ideas and spectacle. In addition to his engineering work, Leonardo helped plan festivals and design stage machinery while at the court in Milan. Most notably, he designed a piece of machinery for the Festa del Paradiso in 1490. This machinery was a mechanized version of heaven, made to depict the movement of the celestial sphere above the stage. He also designed a number of machines, including self-propelled carts and mechanical creatures, a classic Mercury-Mars manifestation. There is also a secret in derived houses to the importance of Leonardo's Mercury. As the 10th house from the 8th, the 5th house represents what is said about someone after their death. The primary source of information we have about Leonardo's life is from his own notebooks. Around 7,000 pages of his notes, drawings, and journals survive. Mercury in Aries in the 5th house is a fitting placement for a restless note-taker whose inventive mind comes to life on the page, even today. Saturn, the greater malefic, is in exaltation in the air sign of Libra in the 11th whole sign house of Friends. It rules Mars in Aquarius and is ruled by Venus in Taurus. It is in turn the ruler of Venus by bound, a very important detail that we'll discuss later. Saturn is the only retrograde planet in the chart, which means that it represents delays and setbacks, stops and starts in both Leonardo's collaborations and relationships with others. As we'll see in a bit, this Saturn-Venus relationship is very important. It connects the discipline, proportion, and craft significations of Saturn with the beauty and artistic sense of Venus, all through Leonardo's time spent working in guilds, workshops, and under the support of powerful patrons, all of which are very important 11th house significations. Leonardo da Vinci's career as an artist began in the busy Florentine workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio. His demanding master taught him the tools of the trade, both painting and sculpture, as well as architecture. One project in particular helps demonstrate the importance of Saturn in timing Leonardo's career: the mounting of a copper orb on the dome of Florence Cathedral. The orb was made in Verrocchio's workshop between July 7th and October 10th, 1470. It was then mounted on the dome of the cathedral in May 1471. At the time, Leonardo's Saturn was directed to the midheaven by primary direction. It went exact in May 1470 and again in June 1471, timing the project and underlining its importance in shaping his career. Then, in the early 1470s, Leonardo was enrolled as a master in the Painters Guild of St. Luke. This also demonstrates how important classic 11th house significations, such as guilds, communities, and collaboration, were to the mastery that he gained as an artist, a further signification of Saturn. Now we come to Venus in Taurus in the 6th house. The lesser benefic is far more powerful than it first appears. We'll talk about why in a bit, but first let's look at a curious feature of Leonardo's artistic career: his many abandoned projects. In what ways was Leonardo an unfinished genius, and what does Venus in Taurus have to do with this? Giovanni Paolo Lomaso, one of da Vinci's earliest biographers, had an explanation for this. Writing in 1590, he said, "He never finished any of the works he began because, so sublime was his idea of art, he saw faults even in the things that to others seemed miracles." To To look deeper into this, let's uncover the true power of Leonardo's Venus as the victor of the chart. First, as a nocturnal benefic, Venus is considered the most positive planet in a night chart. In Leonardo's chart, it's located in its nocturnal domicile of Taurus, which makes it even stronger. Additionally, it rules both the sun and moon by bound, and the lot of spirit by sign. This is enough to make it the victor of the chart. The victor of the chart is a key planet that traditional astrologers identified as the most powerful planet in the horoscope. The Hellenistic astrologer Porphyry said that the victor of the chart acts as a guardian planet chosen by the soul before incarnation. Both Vettius Valens and Porphyry outlined processes for determining the victor of the chart. Dr. H is a contemporary astrologer doing interesting work with the victor of the chart in the horoscopes of historical figures. If you want to learn more about this interesting subject, we may do a future episode about it. But for now, what does Venus have to do with Leonardo da Vinci's genius? Venus in Taurus in the 6th house represents a love of beauty grounded in hard work. Venus is in its own sign, but in the bound of Saturn. This explains da Vinci's experimental, almost scientific approach to art. He was largely self-taught, and nature became his most important teacher. He used his curious mind and precise attention to detail to examine nature and refine his work accordingly. He repeatedly asked simple but important questions. How does light reflect off a surface? How do shadows affect color? How do birds fly and change direction in the air? How do we use our muscles and bones to walk? Venus's bound ruler of Saturn, although it is in exaltation in Libra, is in retrograde, which represents the many frustrations and setbacks that Leonardo experienced in his career, as well as his painstaking approach that meant his artwork was never finished, it could always be refined. The Sforza horse is one key example of this. He spent years drawing horses, studying their anatomy, and designing a unique casting method to make a bronze horse statue for the Duke of Milan. However, when the project was nearing completion, he saw the bronze melted into cannons, and the model was destroyed when the French took over the city. The Mona Lisa is another important example. Behind that enigmatic smile lies hours of dissection studies. He learned about the nerves and muscles of the face, and spent a lifetime examining light and shadow and how they behave. He worked on the portrait for over a decade, taking it with him from Florence to Milan, and then on to France. If we take a look at the whole chart, Venus in Taurus, in the bound of Saturn, completes Leonardo's story. The Moon and Jupiter, conjunct in Pisces, gives him an imaginative, abundant, and bucolic childhood. Mars in Aquarius and Mercury in Aries push him toward bold experiments, and show his career working with machines, festivals, anatomy, and transportation infrastructure, as well as ensuring his legacy lived on through his written word. Venus in Taurus and Saturn connect his work ethic and creativity, such that all his ideas must be tested, corrected, and refined through long study, with the support of demanding patrons and teachers, and through repeated efforts. In Leonardo's life, success was never easy or quick. Every portrait, every study of water or flesh or light was the outcome of patience, long study, setbacks, delay, and dedication. Here you see Venus in her own sign, working through an exalted retrograde Saturn, combining art with discipline and the search for perfection. Thank you for watching today. I hope you learned something. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the future.